Because I think coming into this conversation is the question in everybody's mind, which is we're talking about procrastination, but at the end, what is our goal? What are we working towards? And it's not the goal of saying advisors are better suited to do an estate plan. It's there's a problem that exists, which is most people don't have an estate plan done. And now we have to look at that, and there's only two answers. And I know, Carrie, we've talked about this a lot. There's a lot probably listening that have seen LinkedIn things all over the place talking about it, where if someone doesn't have an estate plan, what is our answer? And is the answer just you need to go talk to an attorney and get that done? And sometimes that might be the case. And I think from Encore, we're always going to say the best solution is an attorney and an advisor working hand in hand and completing everything, right? Because from us, we talk about estate planning as create your documents, fund your documents, notify and educate everybody named in those. And a lot of times you need the advisor involved in that, even if it's an attorney doing all the work. But if we look at the problem of no estate plan being done, well, what are we going to do with the mass affluent, the bottom half of the country, which is millions and millions of people who it's the common family, right? I have a couple kids, maybe I own a home and I have a 401k, and yeah, my advisor is there, but more people have an advisor than an attorney. And I think that's the question we're all wrestling with. And Carrie, I'd love you to expand on that of going, we've talked about it a little at the beginning. If it's not the greatest solution, is the second best? Is it just good enough? Just talk through your mindset of going into, if we're taking out them going to a lawyer's office and doing it, and we're utilizing something like Encore to get those documents done, where does that fit in like a scale of getting it done perfectly versus not done at all?
Right, right. This is going to go to some of what we will talk about as far as workflow and getting it in for what we would hope is 100% of our clients on to get an estate plan together. But the reality is you do have an estate plan. Even if you don't have any documents, you do have an estate plan. And so when we're trying to get people to review what they have in place, educate them as to what can happen if they were to pass away prematurely, anything like that, we want to identify where maybe the non-complex situations are that we can help address within Drucker Wealth. And so one of the things I do as the estate planning specialist is to spot issues, and how my experience as an estate planning attorney allows me to do that and say, okay, this is something where I hate to call anybody simple. I usually tell everybody, you're not simple, you're non-complex. If 80% of people fit into this non-complex, where you're right, they have their kids, they've got their home. I mean, on the financial side, there's a lot going on. There's college planning, there's tax loss harvesting, there's maybe they've got RSUs. There's a lot going on the financial services side, but they might not really think there's much to do on the estate planning side. But the reality is that if all of that other work that the investment advisor is doing to build a legacy is wasted if we haven't planned for what to do with the legacy. But again, if it's non-complex and we have these options now for us to have that solution, like Encore Estate Plans, to have a solution where we can provide the education and information and platform for clients to put something together that's at least going to help answer the two big questions I say. Where are things going to go? And who's going to be in charge? I mean, I like to break down the overall estate plan to those two questions to make it seem a little bit easier to approach. But when we can answer that first question and it doesn't involve a lot of complexity, we don't have a federally taxable estate, we're not trying to disinherit children, we've got some things where we're not reinventing the wheel, then having a solution like Encore Estate Plans is perfect, because that is going to fit many of our clients. I'm issue spotting though, so I'm also paying attention to clients where it's not going to be appropriate. Anytime there's any type of, somebody says something, well, I don't want my spouse to receive something. We're not messing with that. You need to talk with an attorney who can help explain further, obviously. So I'm able to weed through some of what clients might say or think is important in this conversation and pick that out, hopefully fairly quickly, but just to establish whether we're going to be able to continue on the Drucker Wealth side, or if there's going to need to be further legal advice. And having the option, even through Encore Estate Plans, to have an attorney referral network is important too, because I mean, I've got lots of contacts here in Florida, but I don't know everybody in all 50 states, you know.
Yeah.
I know sometimes where to look, but so having the ability to say, okay, I can't answer these questions, I can't give you the advice that you need, but let's get you connected with our partner who's going to be able to help. And then again, it's still all coming basically through me, through Drucker Wealth, through my team. So it's still being cohesive, but it's solving the question for the people who maybe aren't in that 80 or so % of non-complex plans.
Yeah, thanks for the context. And we'll shift over to some of the operational side. But just for people listening, right? There, where we're talking, Carrie just shared a good idea of the 80%, right? Not the simple, but the not complex. Well, where Encore views this is there's really three ways advisors are utilizing Encore through the system where they're collecting the data from the end client. We're able to provide documents, but there's going to be clients who are stickier, who want an attorney stamp of approval or maybe a quick conversation, right? They own a business, they're not exactly sure, and you don't want to provide legal advice. They need someone to step in. Encore has attorney reviews where these are law firms that don't work for Encore. We don't split fees with them. We don't do referral fees with them. They're purely law firms on their own in any individual state where Carrie working with the client can go, hey, this client's just going to want a quick call about that. And I know it's going to stem into legal advice. I'm going to go ahead and schedule that. A few $100 more, they can still get the documents set up and have that attorney step in. Or for cases like Carrie, where she just talked about, not giving money to a spouse or disinheriting a child. Encore has questions that pop up when you start a plan to disqualify, but there's other things where we can just refer that directly to an attorney. So whether we're completing the whole plan inside of Encore, we're doing most of it with an attorney stepping in, almost like a hybrid version, or just outsourcing it directly, it's now you, the advisor, who's still the champion, the quarterback of that, because you're the relationship owner, right? Where Gideon can step into this and he can bring Carrie in for the estate plan. He can bring other team members in for tax planning. He can build the financial plan. This is just one area to just cement that relationship internally.